There is no way we can homeschool our kids.
And if we haven't learned this by now, we never will. Never say never.
Once our kids went back to traditional education, their love for learning that they developed,
Just
it tanked.
The real question is how best to prepare our kids. Making sure that our children are prepared for the challenges and the changes that are coming. Changes and challenges that we ourselves haven't identified yet.
You cannot change the world. But the one world that we can change is the world within the four walls of our home.
The way that we make the world a better place is by raising really good, kind, caring human beings who are well prepared for the future. And what came to my mind was the Boy Scout motto, be prepared.
Hello and welcome to the Off the Lesson Plan podcast.
A place for conversations about when the right path no longer feels right. I'm Steve.
And I'm Vaini. And together we're going to be hosting conversations or connect with parents who are questioning the decisions, the educational decisions that they're making for their kids. And especially for parents that, like us, who once upon a time said, homeschool what?
What is that?
What is homeschooling? And most importantly, there is no way we can homeschool our kids.
And if we haven't learned this by now, we never will. Never say never. So here we are talking about all kinds of things, homeschooling journey and best ways to prepare our children for their future, an unknown future in the age of AI.
That's exactly it. So, one of the things that we love to do together as a couple is to host people. We love talking to each other, talking to other people. And for the past 8 years, since we began our journey as a homeschooling our kids, where we give them a more personalized education with better alignment with our family lifestyle, we always ended up talking to parents who are questioning. And I think that there are parents out there that whenever they have their kids, they're already set on stone that they're going to homeschool their kids. And, usually because they had enough access to homeschooling that makes them think that I can do this, is the right thing for my family, and I want to do it, right? They are, we're definitely not those parents. We're not, we were not those parents, right?
Well, I guess if I could just jump in here, we didn't start this with an agenda other than we wanted to make sure we were doing the best we could do to prepare our children for their future.
Yes.
So any type of education model would work for us, provided that it aligned with our family values,
in
our
the
family
lifestyle that we
lifestyle.
had, yes.
Exactly.
But the whole point of that, throughout our journey of homeschooling, talking to people, a lot of times people have the same questions that we had, right? And in our case, I feel that we have said yes to homeschooling 3 times. And the 3 times it happened for different reasons, as well as different seasons of life, right? With the last yes being this summer, when we realized that we're going to do something that we had promised each other that we would not do, which was to homeschool our kids through the high school years. We had a very clear agreement between us that we would homeschool them all the way to their to 8th grade. And that whenever they went to high school, we would then put them back into traditional school. This way they would have the best opportunities to go to college if they chose to do, and all of that. Because back then as well, we did not know what we know today.
That's true.
And with what we know after 8 years of homeschooling our kids and doing different types of homeschooling education, we did traditional homeschooling. We do a lot of hybrid education where we bring in what we consider to be the best of both worlds, to having certified teachers where they can learn in an ecosystem with other peers, while continue to be home 2 to 3 days a week, to have the flexibility of time to not needing to be somewhere 35 hours a week. This allows a lot of flexibility to travel and to do all of things. So every family has a different why for questioning whether traditional education is good for their families or not, right?
That's right.
But the fact is that throughout these years, we always find ourselves talking to families that, like us, are like, there is no way I can do this. I'm unhappy with how my kid education is going. I feel that we want to try something different, but homeschooling is not an option to us. And our hope is
Well, by sharing our journey, what exactly Have we done? We've done traditional school, we've done charter school,
Yeah, we
and we've
done traditional
done
school, charter school, traditional public
public
school,
school.
charter school. We did a season of private school internationally. And then once we began our homeschooling journey, we began with Florida Virtual School, which I find amazing, fascinating. Then we changed it to traditional homeschooling. Then we did co-ops just to be around other kids. But then eventually in middle school, we went in, which is the hybrid model that we do today.
Our hope is that by sharing our journey and our stories, that we could help you with the best decision for your families.
Exactly.
And I would say that our family values, we strongly value education. We have a very strong academic mindset, and we want to make sure that we prepare our kids, that they're prepared to do well at the college level and beyond. One thing that we discovered is that a lot of the deep learning that needs to happen, especially when the kids are younger, where they really build that strong foundation, seem to be lacking, at least in
Yes.
our experience. And
Exactly.
things like, memorizing the multiplication tables, these old-fashioned things that actually help our brains to develop
Yeah.
and allow us to do more advanced math, were no longer deemed to be necessary because we have Google and we can just search stuff up.
Yes.
And
But again, with all of the things is not, this is not going to be conversations to talk
Right.
about our experiences,
Right.
about what we do well. Let's just put it this way: it's not a place to come in and be like, well, we do all of these things well with our kids, because to the contrary, we are, most of the time of this journey that we have, it has been a lot of trials and errors,
Right.
a lot of tears, a lot of doubt. Are we doing the right thing for our kids? But I think what you're saying, and I interrupt you, I'm sorry, is that it's not about coming here to give solutions,
Right.
or to say, look, we have found a way. But I think that we're living during a time where, the world is changing very fast. Our experiences are changing. We know, according to the technocrats, that 10 years from now, the world is going to be much different. And I believe that all of the parents, would you agree that parents, from our experience talking to parents, we're all kind of on that place of,
No, that's right. We had some friends over last night who were also in the same boat. And, in fact, the friend, he's an IT senior IT professional. He's wondering about his future given all the changes.
yeah,
And so, right now I think it's really important that that everyone question their why in terms of, the mode of education that you feel is best for your child, given the changes. The lesson plan that we all grew up with still works, depending on the situation, depending on the family, depending on the job market, and so on. But there is a need for us now to challenge all of our assumptions. We need to ask good questions. And when I think about AI, the most important thing about AI is prompting the chatbot. If you ask the right question, you structure it properly, you'll get actionable information back.
yeah,
And I think that applies to everything in our lives. We no longer need to just accept what the professional education system is telling us. And to a large extent, I can say, as a professor of engineering, and I've been doing this for a very long time, we tend to be insulated from the goings on in today's society. We did our degrees, and we've been teaching, we've been educating. Many of us, thousands of students, have gone through our classes, and it's worked really well up until now. So what's the problem? And then you start to talk to the students, and you realize just how radically different their experiences. And one of the interesting things, by the way, that happened this spring at commencement exercises all over the country, where the commencement speakers would mention AI and get booed by the students, which is really amazing. And you think about when computers, no, it was a big thing.
really,
And when computers were being introduced and the internet, and everybody, the future is looking so bright, we're going to use this new technology. It's going to take, the bridge to the 21st century back in the 1990s. And there was an optimism and there was a comfort that these technological changes would actually better our society and that our children could handle them and master them. Well, now we're all not so sure,
Yeah.
right? So I think, we need to think about what it looks like to be off the lesson plan to best position our children for their future. And if I were to say one thing that I believe is the most important, is that we need to develop a can-do, out-of-the-box, problem-solving mindset for all of our kids. And that's why going off the lesson plan has a lot of value, because you're not following the same educational plan that your parents did and your grandparents did, because those paths are no longer going to provide the quality of life, independent living that they once did for you and for me, right?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because we're going to have a lot of guests. We're going to have some incredible guests. So far lined up, we have Steve's sister, who is a EDD, a doctor of education. She taught in the traditional school system, public school system, for over 30 years. Is a presidential awardee for STEM education. She's the real deal when it comes to education. She's going to be coming over here to Florida. Steve's going to be interviewing her. Steve is going to be the interviewer of our podcast because he is able to stay on a line of thought longer than I am. I'm still a trainee into this whole thing. And I'm not devaluing myself, but it's been fun, to plan this. That is a hobby for the two of us. So why are we doing this, right? We're doing this so that we can have a hobby that is different, that is creative, that takes us out of the box, that makes us experience new things as a couple. And because we love to talk and to host people, now we're going to be talking and hosting you guys to our to this very special place in our home. But we're going to have other, lineup speakers. Interview. We're going to have like Michelle Wilson's coming. It was Michelle. Through Michelle's work, we were able to understand that we could, yes, homeschool our kids through high school, and that if they have the desire to go to a higher education, that they would be well prepared for it. We also have Corey, which is the director of an incredible co-op in the Tampa Bay area. What we call hybrid schooling is not a hybrid school, but for us, it works. Our hybrid school system. I feel that, can I have my school system? It would look like exactly like that. So she's also coming up, and there's other people that we're going to be inviting in to have conversations about all things. What is possible? What are the options that we have as parents? And hopefully also other topics within the realm of educating our kids and preparing our kids for the future, that is not going to be only about homeschooling, but that we can talk about other things, because I feel that as parents as well, we are under a great amount of stress. And I feel that it's, having this conversation, engaging these conversations with very regular, normal parents, it's going to be amazing.
What I'd like to say something, though, about why are we starting this now? And I think it's interesting to think about that, because every summer until this summer,
that's true,
we would go through about a 1 month or more soul searching. Do we want to continue doing what we're doing? Is this really working? Are we messing up our kids' future?
Yeah.
Is this the right thing? And this was the first summer in 8 years of homeschooling where we never questioned. We're like, you know what, as Vaini said, our hybrid mode, where our kids are able to do a lot of their schoolwork at home in more of a traditional homeschool setting with us, but then they go to a co-op and they actually sit through classes with certified teachers.
Yeah.
And they get to do that with their peers. Another thing about the co-op that's different than traditional school that we really like is they work with students from elementary all the way to high school. And they did a theater production last year, Bye Bye Birdie, and it was amazing. There was a young boy, I think he was in 4th grade as part of the troupe, and there were seniors in high school, and it was the full age range.
What we have found within an environment where kids relate to each other from different ages, there isn't a surprise. It's so there's such a camaraderie.
Camaraderie, yeah.
Exactly,
camaraderie.
And there's such a humanity. Parents are involved. Kids are learning to, to relate to different people from different ages with respect. Not to say that homeschoolers are saints, because they're not. They're all very normal kids. But I find the hybrid model that we use today, that we developed for our family, allows us to to give our kids all of the experiences that they need to have when it comes to peers in a almost like as a sample of the population, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
I always see that, they're still experiencing the same exactly things, but in a more
But a smaller scale.
in a smaller scale, right?
And also if I can just jump in really quickly. And in an environment where the parents are actively encouraged, in fact, in many ways, obligated to be present during a lot of these activities. So
Exactly.
you're there with your kids, and you get to see them interact,
Yes.
and it's just a very nice way for them to become very civilized, very well spoken.
But honestly, the goal is not to convert anybody for homeschooling. To the contrary, I think that homeschooling is a lifestyle. It may be a lifestyle that does not fit everyone. But for those of you, for parents who are questioning, we would love to be a source of good
Support
content
and support
and support for your questioning journey, right? But to a reality, we find that what we have built, the ecosystem that we have built that we call hybrid schooling for our children, is something that a lot of parents are looking for but doesn't know that
Right.
exists and how to do it.
Right.
So, and I think that is the biggest thing, because a lot of times you don't know, you know that you want something, but you're like, I don't know how to do that. And we hope that we can give you guys a pathway of what is possible. Even if it means that in the end, you're like, that's not what I want. And that's okay, right? We just said how we said yes to homeschooling now again, when our kids are going to high school. I never thought that,
I know.
that I would be a homeschool mom for high schoolers. So this is new to me, but I feel so confident and just confident in the process, confident in our kids, confident in us. We always co-led our kids' education with how we manage everything and when they were little. But I feel that in this stage that they are turning teenagers and going to high school, I feel very confident because of how you are interacting with this whole reality and being a university professor. I feel that you understand a little bit more of that transition that they will go on in those 4 years. But when we began homeschooling our kids, our first year to homeschooling happened when they enter elementary school. And as a researcher, Steve was traveling a lot. So we took them out from traditional education so we could travel with Steve. Was our why.
And
yes.
it gave us the motivation to try to do the home education
That's exactly
path.
it.
And we tried different things. And I think if I were to step back here, we're talking about a lot of different things, and hopefully over time, as we do different episodes, it'll all make sense. So there's two things that we value very strongly in our family, and we hope that this has been passed on to our children, is that, never to be afraid to ask questions, to ask good questions, to be willing to listen to answers that don't necessarily align with your viewpoint. So we really believe in kind of researching and talking to others and learning and growing in our knowledge and understanding of things. But we also value very much the idea of choice. We'd like to have the choice to be the leaders, the managers of our kids' education, and not just stick to the standard lesson plan because it's comfortable and it's what we did and, it's easier or not, right? Mm-hmm. So just, and when we began this journey, we always joke that we're probably the least likely parents you'd ever meet to homeschool. I mean, if you were to talk to us 10 years ago, when we were discussing the possibility, we're like, no, that's not us. We never saw ourselves as home educators. And we kind of got into it. Again, the motivation for us, the why was traveling.
And I think that I like your why. I think it's such an important point, because one of the most important things, the one thing that's going to always keep us in a path, wherever it is in life, is having a very strong why. So whenever I talk to people about homeschooling, about removing kids from traditional education, building a different education for them, I always say this is not easy. Some people make it sound very easy. Some people make it sound very funny. I love conversations about the reality of it, right? So to me, I would say that now that my kids are transitioning to high school, we are so happy that we homeschooled our kids when they were little.
Yeah.
It's so delicious to homeschool small kids. Honestly, homeschooling teenagers,
It's a little different.
not very exciting. Not very exciting.
But
If it was
hybrid-
not, but
well,
but that's why is important.
Yeah.
Our first why to homeschool our kids was a very strong why based on fun. We're going to travel the world. The kids are going to see the world, which they traveled all over the place. They don't remember anything because that's the irony of parenting. We gave them all of that experience. They remember nothing. With his mom, Steve is going to say, no, they remember. No, they don't remember. It's like he wants to think that they don't remember. But the point is, our why was very strong then. So it was fun. It was delicious. They were like little, Then after the pandemic, our children went back to traditional school for 1 year. I think we're all needing a breathing room.
Right.
We were needing a breathing room as parents. Our kids were definitely needing a breathing room. So we put them back into public traditional education in a very good school in the Tampa Bay area, where our daughter did 4th grade and our son did 5th grade. So that year we had a lot of success. It was great in so many aspects. It was great for us coming out from homeschooling them at that point for 3 or 4 years, and then having that backing again of them being, taught by teachers. Each one of them had, 2 teachers. We had very good relationship with with 2 of the teachers, not really a good relationship with the other teachers. But there was a lot of benefits. Having peers, I felt that being on that environment was good. They got to ride the yellow bus for half of the year. Then they got tired of the yellow bus and then they started riding their bikes, to and from school. So I think we had a lot of amazing experiences with that year that they went back to school. Once the year ended, that our son was getting into middle school, our daughter was going to transition to 5th grade, then we were like, we don't want that. We miss the freedom of homeschooling. We miss
but there was another main reason, if I can jump in here.
It?
Well, they enjoyed learning. They enjoyed, and
that's true.
Going back to
that's true. That's actually the main reason. Yes.
Going to an environment where unfortunately the joy was not optimized or was not really allowed.
Yeah.
And the most important thing
it was not that the joy was not allowed.
Well, but it was
more that because of testing.
Well, that's the point. Testing.
Exactly.
The standardized testing. Man, they went from being stress-free kids who enjoyed learning, and they didn't like certain things. It was a struggle. This and that.
Yes,
but
we can say that, but that's life. Well, but that's not like truly life. Nobody's looking to become an adult and just going to a job that they hate and seeing that. I always say that as adults, if we are in a job that we hate, we can even stay in that job for a while longer, but we are looking for a way out.
Right.
We are looking, we're looking for another job. We're looking sometimes for another career even. Right. We have the freedom, right? To be like, I don't want this for myself, so I'm going to transition to something else. And when we put the kids on that environment at school, well, they don't have the freedom, So with that, it's true. Once our kids went back to public traditional education, their love for learning that they developed through their homeschooling journey. It just tanked. Yeah. Why? Because now it was not about learning. It was about passing the test. It was not about sitting in a topic as long as you can because you're passionate about that topic. And you can learn language arts, science, and social studies out of that one topic. Even math when they're elementary school. You can teach math with anything. And you can just stay on that area. No. It was about testing. It was about the whatever was FAFSA, FSA, I don't know what it is. It was about that. It was weeks preparing for the test, then taking the test and all of the pressure that is at A school, the school needs to stay A school and all of that. And not bad-mouthing the school system, but that took the joy out of the kids.
But the thing that worried me besides, they were just teaching for the test, but there was no deep foundational learning.
That's exactly
And
it.
in the
Yes.
end, especially, in elementary school, you're building foundations that you build upon for middle school. And in the end, middle school's purpose is to prepare you for high school, and high school for life, whether it's going to be, working, having a company, going into the trades, or going to the university. When you get to high school is when you really want to start moving in whatever direction you're interested
That's exactly
in.
it. Yes.
And by the way, you may find it hard to believe as a having my doctorate in electrical engineering, I am not of the mindset everybody should go to college. No.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that we need to, in some ways, debunk the myth that the only path to a successful future is a college degree. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that.
Oh, yeah,
and it's
I
not
think
just
so.
the student loan debt, but it's, well, a lot of these entry level jobs are being literally done now by AI robots. And then you say, well, okay, what's going to happen to a lot of folks who, 10 years ago would go to college, get a degree in almost anything, and have a good starting
Exactly.
job in a white collar job at a company or whatever. So we are not here. We're not pushing any agenda. We are not selling anything, by the way. And that's another challenge that I always had when I look at content and I see people, talking about stuff, or they're really selling. They're selling a curriculum or a platform or whatever. We literally are just here to have a conversation.
Yeah, we're just here to invite you guys to our living room and maybe perhaps,
help in some
through
way.
this conversation, you start questioning a little bit more. And I want to go back to the why again, just a little bit, because we realize, man, our kids, we got to see our kids loving to learn, having a love for learning, going, diving deep into whatever topic and reading and being curious and creative. And now they're in an environment that they don't have the benefit of that anymore because the system requires so much measurement, performance measurements, that now they need to perform at all times. They need to be high performance with grades with the expense of their love for learning. So then we chose homeschool again with a different why. Now our why was for our kids' sake and for them to be able to have the privilege of actually going through this season of life. They're growing up, learning things that they want to learn and falling in love with topics and being able to sit with that topic for as long as they want while we're moving forward academically. So so that was our why. So having a why is very important. I feel that if your why is not for anything in life, you need to have a strong why. And those were our whys, right? Now with them going to high school is very interesting. Because I personally, as a mom, and I don't know, I never ask you that because I know that I always talk about myself, as you guys are going to see. That's why just look, we have the blah, 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 and then it comes him. He stays quiet the whole time.
The guy.
And then when he says something so profound and so wise, then I'm like, wow.
I've always been a wise guy.
You are. And I love how our son is so much like you.
So go ahead and continue
without,
with where...
talk about our kids so much. But the point is, this time, it is their yes and it's their why. Because we developed a relationship with a local school that is an amazing school. And we always had that. We need to develop a relationship with that school because...
co-op, right? So you mean
No, I'm talking about this school. I don't want to say the name of the school.
Okay.
But there's a charter school that we developed a strong relationship with them because we're always... kept thinking like,
that's true.
If our kids go back to school, we need to be able to put them on that school, right? If they go back to a traditional school for high school. But the reality of it is that this time when we spoke to them, we did not have questions. We could, we got to the point of being so confident with this journey. But beautifully enough, they said, no, we want to continue the way that we're doing. And, so for example, they are in the stage now, maturity level, they're 13, 14 years old, where they engage with us in the choice of curriculum, right? On how are we going to build up their schedule with their classes? What are the classes that they need to take? What we call the core classes. And then what are the electives and all of the different things. And, so for example, if they want to do an elective at a co-op that is conflicts with a time of a core class that they would take. How can we take that core class at home so that they can do that elective there? So I feel that the freedom that they experienced made them have a solid yes for their education, because up to middle school was really us driving. And now we are getting to experience them wanting to say yes and them driving and thriving, right, in what they're doing. I think that our third why is because we see that we are able to, through the hybrid education model that we have created for our children, they now can be prepared through their high school years to a very different world that we don't know what's going to look like. And the tendency of human beings is to always be like, oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to be a doomsday. I honestly have so much hope for the future. I think that, I don't know, I have such a hope for humanity. And I have such an understanding that humanity always realigns somehow, and there's always an betterment, right? That hard. So I don't know what's going to look like. But one thing I know for certain, and even though we're not selling homeschooling, that's going to sound like we're selling homeschooling, but I'm just going to say as it is. The educational system traditionally is definitely not preparing our kids for the reality of what the world is going to come to, right?
Well, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And part of it is the system is very complex. It's very large. And so everyone that's in the system was educated with the old lesson plan.
Yeah.
And it's what they understand. It's what they know how to deliver. And then we talk to my sister. She'll give us some insight as well as a public school teacher of 31 years. So we have no doubt that the public school system will adapt.
Will adapt, yeah.
And will make the changes necessary to prepare the next generation of kids for their future. The challenge is, what do we do right now with our children,
with their generation.
With their generation.
Because in the end of the day, what I came to understand, I've always been very idealistic as a person. Always been, and I had this thing about like going and changing the world, and I'm going to make the world a better place. And with time and with age, now as a middle-aged woman, then you realize that life breaks your heart, because you realize, but let me just finish what I'm going to say, because I do have a point. It's not a doomsday point. Life has a way to break your heart where you realize that, well, you know what? It doesn't matter how much you see the world, you cannot change the world. Right? The change in the world and make the world a better place in the idealistic way is so completely outside of your reach. But then, what parenting has taught me is that we don't need to change the world. We can continue to be idealistic. But the one world that we can change is the world within the four walls of our home. And if we work intentionally to work with ourselves, work with our families, build a system that works for our families in every aspect of it, then by improving our family life, improving our kids' future, then and only then we are doing everything that we can to improve the world. Like to quote Mother Teresa when they said, what can I do to make the world a better place? And she says, go home and love your family.
Right.
And I think that through education, and it's not to say that parents who are in traditional education that they're not doing that. And I really hope that my words do not come across as arrogant or saying that.
Yeah, right. But I think, so what happens with us as we mature and we all go through this transition is that we want to change the world to make the world a better place. And you're absolutely right. The way that we make the world a better place is by raising, really good, kind, caring human beings who are well prepared for the future. And what came to my mind was the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. And I think that if we look at all the changes that are going on, and the real question is how best to prepare our kids. And for some families, it'll be private school. For some families, it'll be traditional homeschooling. For others, traditional public school. Or having private tutors, or the hybrid mode. We feel from a realistic point of view for us that this hybrid mode of education works for us. We're able to put together all of the important learning outcomes that we feel our children will need for the future to be prepared, that we're able to do this. We're able to tailor and cherry pick content and courses and subjects that we feel are going to position them in the best possible way to succeed in the future. So I think it's all about making sure that our children are prepared for the challenges and the changes that are coming, changes and challenges that we ourselves haven't identified yet because we're not there yet.
Yeah, we don't hope to, to tell you that our way to do things is the right way to do things. The goal is, what are the resources that are out there? What kind of conversations can we have? What kind of challenges that we have? There is the academic aspect that we spoke about it, but there's also another aspect of it as well. It is not easy being on that driver's seat for your kids' education because to a certain extent, for example, when I talk to friends, one of the biggest fears that they have is like, I just don't know if I can have my kids home the whole day. Like, honestly, they will drive me crazy. I hear that more often than that's interesting. Now, I have the tendency to be a very vulnerable person when I'm talking. I love to just be as imperfect as I can because I feel that through our imperfections, God creates a master plan and a masterpiece with our lives and our existence. But the reality of it is hopefully we can add value in other things as well. We went through the journey of being bookend parents, the sandwich generation of raising younger kids while caring for an aging parent, and all of the beauty and the challenges that come with that. And,
we hope that some of the episodes that are forthcoming will resonate with you, and you'll either find a shoulder to rest upon or folks who understand you. Sometimes just knowing that others are in the journey that you're in, and they understand you, and that you're not alone, and the feelings and concerns and everything you're going through is
having real conversations about it.
And that's
real
the
conversations, not polished, not
We're definitely not polished. We're doing we did try to clean up at least to look decent.
So, clearly not polished enough. But listen, thank you so much for being here. We hope this is going to be a journey that we walk together. But most importantly, than everything that we have said, I think that the most important thing is what this space means to us on the aspect of us just, doing something new together. And I'm loving this process with you.
Yeah,
I
been
truly
great.
am.
It's been a lot of fun.
From choosing to put Froggy on the wall.
Yep.
I think we should introduce Froggy.
Yeah,
Freddy the Froggy.
I came home from Europe or something, and there was Fred.
So Freddy,
and I'm looking at this thing saying, well, that's really interesting. Of course, as you can imagine, not a single piece of anything in our house matched this guy.
Well, but here's the thing.
But our kids love this. We got to love this.
And the story about Freddy is the following. We have moved a lot, right? We love moving. And so when you move, you give things away. So you're always like, having a lighter. But Freddy the frog has been one constant in our lives.
For at least 5 years, right?
For longer. Freddy the frog has been in our lives for a long time. And a lot of times throughout our journey, we would just sometimes we would joke, we'd be like, oh, Freddy's our therapist, right? Yeah. Just sit under Freddy, just go over there, hang out with, under Freddy. And we always made a fun place for Freddy. And when we started to design this space, we're like, wow, we got to put something on the wall. And what we're going to put on the wall? So Freddy was so obvious to us. So it's Steve, Vaney, and Freddy.
Thank you, Fred.
So we have Freddy. And this has been so much fun to do it.
It has been.
It's almost like getting to know a part of ourselves that we didn't know.
But it's interesting. I need to think about, a thought came to my mind right now. Which do I feel was more unlikely? That I'd be a homeschool dad or a podcaster? I don't know.
Right?
I'm like, I don't know. Those are two things that if you were to ask me, a few years ago that I would ever do this, I'd be like, no, I mean, that's not what I would do, what I would enjoy, and actually enjoying it a lot.
I hope that we bring value to you guys. But just about having these conversations and just sitting over here has been so much fun. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And so we welcome to Off the Lesson Plan podcast. We'll see you next time, okay?
All right.
Oh, do we ask them to subscribe? Is that what people do?
Oh, yes, that's true.
So down, is it below, above? Where's
I
the?
don't know. So if you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel if you want to give us a second chance.
If we haven't scared you away.
Exactly. Weekly episodes on YouTube. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Get your microphone situated. I'm just enjoying watching you. The leg looks great, by the way. Let's do this. Drum roll. Ready? Clap. Should I clap?
Such a good clapper.
Everything else is downhill.
Hello, and welcome to the Off the Lesson Plan podcast.
A place for conversations about when the right path doesn't feel or no longer feels right.
So I am Vaini, your host.
And I'm Steven, your other host.
And together we are...
Hosts.
Together we are hosts. That was good, right?
It was good. Yeah, I think so.